Okay, it's recording to my computer, but yeah. So just to get started, I think we can just introduce ourselves. So, um, George Campbell, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'm the LSP for the project and been working on this site since the beginning of the year. Um, uh, Thanks for your comments, Jennifer. All those comments will be addressed in the final document. Just talk a little bit about this project. Um, the site is it's a brownfields property. Um, I would say describe it as being underutilized. And I think the plan, I think being in Metro West, we all need housing, especially affordable housing. I think the plan will be a huge improvement over what's there today. And it's designed to be environmentally friendly. It's in a downtown location. It's not bulldozing forest land for housing. It's repurposing what I would call an underused site. And as I mentioned, thank you for your comments, Jennifer and Lisa. Certainly the client wants to do the development in an environmentally friendly manner and install a vapor barrier at all locations that are in the ground floor, with the exception of an open air parking garage, which will take up a large amount of the space. So I think it's a great project. And again, thank you for your comments.
All right, thank you for the introduction, George. The second up is Mike. Excuse me, Joe. Joe, do you just want to say a few words about your input on the project?
Good morning, everybody. Joe Antonellis, attorney. I've been doing some land use law for Rich over the years, and very excited to be involved in the project regarding the repurposing of the old mill buildings in downtown Ashland. We've been able to work very closely with Peter and his staff and other members in the town in designing a project that we think will change the history of Ashland by providing a new foothold for the future, repurposing buildings, saving as much as we can of the architectural integrity of those buildings and the granite facades, which are rather attractive, and repurposing them into a mixed-use development. Echoing on what George said, been involved in land use law for about 40 years and used to seeing forest land devastated for new housing, none of which is very affordable. And so it's exciting to be involved in a project that is going to create units out of existing buildings on a site that George called probably underutilized, especially with the obviously aspect of the a metro train system in Ashland and the new directives from Governor Baker's office about creating housing developments in those towns that are serviced by the MDTA. I think this is really a great kickoff to the future of the housing needs in the Commonwealth. And again, it's just been great working with the people in Ashland. Sometimes a little bit frustrating because of the multiple views about how the building should look or could look or might look. But I think in the end we're going to get there. And again, it's been really fun being involved in the project. So I wanted to jump on today because I know about the environmental concerns, and I see that our site engineer George Connors has just joined us, and George and I have talked about it in the past as well. So that's it from my perspective, Peter. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joe. And I'm just going to introduce Jennifer McQueenie. Jennifer, can you just introduce yourself real quick? I'm sorry.
Sure. I'm Jennifer McQueenie, Mass DEP. I work in the Bureau of Waste Site Cleanups Superfund section. So I work on Superfund sites. And so this is a 21 ES state site, but the folks in the audit section passed it on to me to review. I'm not in the audits section. So, but don't know what else to say there. I work with Lisa on this Nyanza Superfund site.
Yeah.
So in support of her management of that Superfund site.
Okay. And next up, Lisa. Lisa, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your role in the project?
Yep. So Lisa Thuat, I'm the project manager at the Environmental Protection Agency, the Massachusetts Superfund section for the Nyanza Chemical Waste Dump Superfund site is the full name, or we just call it the Nyanza site, which is located off of Magunko Road in Ashland. So our job is to kind of oversee any cleanup and remedial actions that are taken on the site, doing site investigations, and ensuring any offsite contamination, which in this case with Nyanza is in the groundwater, keeping track of where that is and how it can or cannot potentially impact downstream properties, particularly of concern is, like vapor intrusion from the volatile organics that are in the groundwater that can potentially volatilize. People in the downtown Ashland area, a lot of the properties have sub-slab depressurization systems and/or, vapor barriers installed in some of the new buildings or the newly renovated buildings. So our job is kind of just to make sure that there is some protectiveness to human health where it comes, from the perspective of the contamination that's flowing from the Nyanza site toward the Sudbury River in the groundwater. I know this particular property might have its own sources of contamination as well, and we recognize that, but we also we have to look at it from that lens. Is is there a chance that there could be a vapor intrusion issue related to the groundwater from that Superfund site? But I just wanted to say too, I do appreciate all the cooperation that Rich and the property owner has given us over the years for allowing us to do investigations work on their property and installing monitoring wells so that we can keep track of the plume. We did some indoor air sampling in the existing mill building several years ago as well. So we just, we definitely appreciate the owner's continued cooperation and in allowing us to, study, investigate, and, implement remedial actions for the site. So just wanted to mention that.
Awesome. Next up is Rajit. Rajit is from our Board of Health.
Good morning, everybody. Rajat Gupta, Ashland Board of Health. I'm just glad that I'm involved in the earlier process, like early on for this development.
Thanks, Raj. Next up, Becca Solman, Ashland Conservation Commission. Just a note, I invited Raj and Becca just to kind of take part, because they will be part of the permitting process in addition.
Oh, great.
Becca, can you introduce yourself? I'm sorry. You're on mute, Becca. No. Becca's having some problems with her microphone. We sit very close to each other in the office. I'm just going to jump over. I'm going to jump over to George Connors before I introduce Rich Gordon. And I just want to make a note to Jennifer and to Lisa. George Connors is proclaimed to be the inventor of the term chemical brook here in Ashland.
Oh,
Okay, wondering where that came from. Yeah.
And Joe Antonellis did during, I believe, college, work a summer job in the Nyanza factory.
That's correct. I scraped dye off the platens, loaded into barrels, and rolled barrels around that facility for the better part of one whole summer. Yes.
Wow.
Okay. And I don't have any blue dye left in my fingers from it. So
that's good.
I have not met any former employees, so thank you for introducing yourself.
We may be getting back to you. No, just joking. But so George Connors, so many times people make comments about the name of Chemical Brook. So now I can, mention your name.
Yeah.
I'm one of the only few people who has a USGS designation on a map.
Yeah.
You guys hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Hey, I fixed it. I'm like Peter said, I'm Becca. I'm from the Ashland Conservation Commission, and I haven't been involved too much yet, but this will come before the commission. So I'm mostly just here to listen today, I think.
George, if you want to introduce yourself as a site engineer, please do.
I am George Connors with Cornerstone. We're the site engineers for the mill renovation project. And I've had some experience with the Nyanza site on the Nyanza chemical site back in the late 70s or early 80s for quite some time. In this particular site, we have George Campbell that's going to deal with the actual contamination plumes. But we have drawn plans for an upgrade in the drainage system, which is in the plume area. We also have some water and sewer, but that's up in the street, which is about 10 feet above the backyard of the site. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of issues there, but I'll leave that to Mr. Campbell.
Could you speak a little bit about the drainage system, how that's what?
Sure.
Can I just let Rich introduce himself and then we'll.
Oh, sure.
I'm
Sorry.
No,
Sorry.
it's all right. The owner of the site's Rich Gordon. Rich, you want to say a few words?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for getting this together, Peter. Sorry, I had a couple little technical difficulties getting on, but I am here and just like to thank the group for getting together. So, the floor is yours, Peter.
All right, thank you. And I just want to let this be a open conversation, and I'll turn it over to Jennifer with her question and Lisa and whoever. But I think at the biggest point is it's just all for us all to get together. It's a big redevelopment project, in Ashland downtown. It's 8 acres, and so I just want to make sure we are all in the same room, who we know each other, and that we knew the lines of communication were open between everybody. The application team, town staff, DEP, EPA. And so with that said, Jennifer, if you want to ask your questions, I just kind of want to open up as an open forum.
Oh, okay. I did just out of curiosity, George Connors, but you mentioned about the drainage system changing. I just was wondering if you could elaborate real quick.
Sure. Can I share screen?
I can make you a co-host right now. You're all set, George. We're waiting on you. Yep, you got it.
Okay, so this is the site. You follow my cursor, we have Main Street.
Yep.
Main Street intersection, Myrtle, and there's the Sudbury River coming through the back of the site. Along the back of our site proper, we have a wall that separates the river area from the site itself. The site in here, basically in this kind of a circular polygon, is about 10 feet below the street up here. So we think that most of the area along here with our utilities are going to be pretty simple to install. The big issue is the drainage system. Originally, there is a pump that sits up here on some concrete foundation, and it spills water out in towards the river. There's a catch basin or inlet here. There's some sort of a structure here that we think dewaters the foundation of the building. But basically, that's the formal drainage that's there now. There have been a few penetrations through this wall and pipes shoved under it. We don't think that's the original intent of this particular site. So for the renovation, we're going to put in a drainage line system along here, and we're going to catch it into the pump and discharge it out in this direction. We think it should discharge to the tail race. It used to have water flowing through here from the Sudbury River, but that's been blocked. And if you look at that, it's kind of yucky. It's got a dark tan sheen, and we think it's just would benefit from the discharge. Of course, there's a order of conditions that we're going to file for this particular change to the site. But generally speaking, we're taking all these gray areas and we're putting in drainage systems that will catch water, and we'll do the TSS removal. We're doing no infiltration into the ground. I think that basically what was going on was that the site didn't infiltrate anything. It either went through the wall or prior to that went through this pump system that's there. There'll be a new pump system. We'll probably have 2 or 3 different sizes of pumps to take care of the various storms from, you know, the 1 year all the way up to the 100. And we're going down about 10 feet at this particular location, just as a result of the hydraulics and the gradients on the pipes. So this particular system will be more formal and meet whatever Ashland code is at this time. And it will deal with TSS removal to the maximum extent practical, but it will not do any infiltration. So I don't think it's going to change anything with respect to the groundwater regime or the plume at that location.
Yeah, George, this is Lisa. I had looked at, when I looked at the town had provided those plans, like the drainage information, and that was a big thing I noticed and appreciated, that it was not going to infiltrate. So I had noticed that on the plans. So thank you for clarifying that. Is a TSS removal going to be a storm scepter or something? Is that, I can't recall what I.
Yeah, they're going to be deep sump catch basins with the hoods, and I think there's a storm scepter or two that we're going to propose in there. We're preparing these for filing stormwater permits and with notice of intent with Conservation Commission. As you may know, it's a historic mill site, and the renovations or the reconstruction come under that. So we're really not having any impact on any resource area per se. It is in the 100-year floodplain according to FEMA. You can see some various cross sections here and down along here. But we don't believe that the actual water comes over the wall, although we have accounted for that in the pump's sizing and what it will discharge, because there's going to be an awful lot of parking of cars at that lower elevation. I'm happy to respond to questions and comments, but I'm happy to hear that about the infiltration. That'll be important for us as we go before Conservation Commission.
Okay. I would just, you probably will have a health and safety plan for any workers that will be, if you're encountering groundwater for that project, you know,
Yeah,
that the plume passes through there. So that should be factored into the health and safety plan. That's all.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Anything else?
Nope. And that.
Or you want me to leave it up?
No, that's all right.
Okay.
So do you want me to just go through? So George nicely sent a, I guess this is the third revised plan just recently, last Thursday. And I quickly went through it. And so I think there's, at this point, maybe there's very little to discuss, but we wanted to have this meeting just because kind of since the beginning, there seemed to be kind of miscommunications. Like we got the first revised plan in April, I think. And apparently the soil borings and wells were installed then, but they weren't in that version. And then, you know, then the utility room that was going to have the vapor barrier suddenly changed names and shapes on the plan. But we didn't know where the vapor barrier was going to go because we couldn't find a utility, utility room. And then there was these other plans showing residential on the second floor of 10 Main Street. And George thought there's no residential at 10 Main Street. So there was, you know, miscommunications with that. So it sounds like everything's resolved or near being resolved, but I just wanted to tie a bow on it and have a meeting just to make sure we're kind of done. And also like another new thing we just learned with this latest revised RAM was now a vapor barrier is also being proposed for 10 Main Street, which is great. That really reassures us, but that wasn't in the previous versions of the RAM. So we didn't know that. All right. I'm not necessarily going to pull it up, but I did send comments to Peter, to you, to Lisa, to George. So I'm just going to run through them. It won't take too long. And Lisa, is that okay? Or
yeah, Jennifer, just I think your comments, you know, those are all be addressed. They'll be incorporated.
Yeah,
you know,
you said that. I know. Yep.
You know, if there's specific, you know, questions, certainly let's talk about it. But
okay, so like the figures, did you see when we sent in October, when we sent an email with a summary of our comments and there was an attachment? Did you actually look at the attachment to see our comments on those figures?
Yes, and they're in. I don't have them today. but they're absolutely will be addressed, and they're in preparation. So I
Okay.
don't have the figures today, but yeah, I absolutely saw the comments on the figures. Yes.
Okay, George, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. So just, as you know, I just wanted to make sure everybody's on the same page. So for 10 Main Street, it's going to be residential on is it the 3rd floor and above, or is it the 2nd floor and above, or?
Second floor and above. Yes.
It's a
The
2nd floor and above.
First 2 floors, ground floor, and the first floor are commercial.
Commercial, right. So
Yeah.
the reason I was confused is the original RAM even had residential on the 2nd floor. So that was always
Yeah.
kind of a confusion for me.
I apologize. That was my understanding was that 10 would be commercial, but it is, you're correct. It is
Okay.
residential, 2nd floor and above. Absolutely, a vapor barrier will be installed there. You certainly invited to view that, installation. Absolutely, we want you, to be there,
Okay.
as
Yes. So
much
Lisa
as
and
you'd
I,
like. I'll put it that way.
what's that?
As much as you would like.
Yeah. Yes.
there.
Right. I mean, we may not be able to, but
Yeah.
Lisa and I,
Photo documentation too is good. Like you could also
Yeah,
take photos of it being
absolutely.
installed. That's like, because the property across the street did that. I'm trying to think of the address where the
Yeah.
bagel shop is on Main Street. 'Cause
21
that was
Main?
Yeah,
Is that 21 Main?
Yeah, that's 21 Main. I think we did go. I know. I remember I went out and looked at that, and then they did take some photos as well, I believe. So yeah. So that's fine as well. Yeah.
Yeah, photo documentation,
Mhm.
absolutely.
So there's 3 things we wanted to be invited for. One was the indoor air sampling. One was the vapor barrier installation for both the utility room, or whatever it's now being called,
Sure. Yeah,
and 10 Main Street, and also the smoke testing for both of those 2 vapor barriers.
absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm putting it out there. So, all right. And so then you have a soil sampling plan. You said it's going to be updated. So it was basically adding EPA wells, and also some of the wells, only because Lisa and I were out there, we're kind of like figuring out where things were. Some of the wells that were on your plan were we don't think it was the right location. So we were actually out there ground truthing it. So to check it out. Okay. And then the logs and tables, the logs, I saw the tables. We did not see that the first time. I did see the logs, and you're going to add the well construction schematics to it.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally appreciate your comments. They will all be addressed. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And then it's just a matter of my remaining comments are just for consistency. Wherever it says, you'll say residential above the parking garage and 10, and then somewhere else is residential is only above the garage. So just kind of consistently throughout. And same with the vapor barrier. Vapor barrier consistently throughout is in 2 locations.
Yeah.
So because there's still places where it just talks about the utility room, which is now called the service storage rooms.
Service, and it should be service, maintenance, utility. It has really 3 names.
Okay.
So it's all on the ground floor. It's a small area of the parking garage. It's not that large an area, but it is, and absolutely 10 Main also will have a vapor barrier. So
no, that's great that you're doing it. We're very relieved about that. And it was just the consistency of the name that threw us for the loop. I mean, the inconsistency, the changing of the name, and then like, where is this utility room? That's what, and then we didn't know about 10 Main vapor barrier. And 2.3.2 sensitive receptors, it was talking about a vapor intrusion risk was evaluated during a 2011 RAO statement. And we just thought, for anybody else that's reading this report in the future, we don't need it. But if you could just add a sentence about the conclusion, it's in there in my comments. It's,
sure,
based on the shallow depth of groundwater and the VOCs, potential exists for exposure to VOCs in indoor air through the vapor intrusion pathway. That's,
Sure.
Yep. So that's the same.
Yeah, I think was it just the other just when it talks about the contaminants too under section like 3.2. I think it was just there was the tetrachloroethylene, PCE. I think you might have meant to say TCE and associated daughter products, because the tetra and PCE are the same thing. That was just one
I
comment.
think that's what he meant, though. I think he meant PCE and daughter products, right? Or George, what did you mean? So,
Section 3.2, it says tetrachloroethylene, PCE and daughter products, but tetra and PCE are the same thing. I was trying to think of maybe you meant to say TCE.
PCE, right? Tetrachloroethylene, right? We're talking the same thing here.
yep.
Yeah, it's almost like it was like redundant because it listed the synonym in the abbreviated name, but I didn't say TCE there, so I wasn't sure if that was supposed to be TCE under section 3.2. Yeah.
PCE and daughter products, right? Is that, are we on the
Yeah,
same?
and then before it says tetrachloroethylene, but
Yeah, it's the acronym is after.
Yeah, I think the reason Lisa was confused is maybe if the PCE acronym was in parentheses, then she would have understood that goes with the name. Am I right?
Well, were you meaning also to say trichloroethylene here? I don't know if was that used at the facility as well.
Trichloroethylene can be a daughter product of PCE.
Yeah. Well, but yeah, so it's just the way it said tetrachloroethylene, comma, PCE and daughter products. It just looked like it was like a redundancy. That's all I was, yeah.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. It's just for the reader that might not be familiar with that. It's just tetrachloroethylene, which is the acronym is PCE.
Right. I think it reads like it looks like it's two different things. That's why this just the way it reads. It reads as if they're two different chemicals, but they're just the same.
It's the daughter products of PCE. That's the intent.
So if you intend to only put the tetrachloroethylene, maybe just put PC in parentheses instead of having a comma. Then
okay,
that would do that.
I apologize for having a comma there.
No.
No, I just think it was like, it looks like it's just two different chemicals. That's all. And I wasn't sure if you meant to put TCE listed there as well. That's just, that was the only other thing, a comment I think I had.
Okay, for section 3.3, soil assessment and management, you're talking just briefly about dewatering of groundwater. It's currently not planned, although a limited quantity of groundwater or rainwater may be recovered. So in your email to me, you mentioned a frac tank and sampling prior to disposal. If you could just throw in a sentence there about that, that'd be great.
Sure.
If you accumulate any, I understand. 3.4 is vapor barriers now because we have 2. So that's just all about that and inviting us. So you have 2 rounds, both in the winter, and I get not having necessarily both at the same locations. And I like that you have at least one sample at the rear of 10 Main Street, because I think in the past, I think there wasn't there a higher level contamination at the rear of 10 Main Street? I know there was PCBs there in the past, but also wasn't there some TCE in the groundwater behind that building or something? Maybe not, but.
Yeah, I have to say, I have to look at the data on that. I don't want to misspeak here.
Or it doesn't, it's, if you just have a sample towards the rear and you
Sure.
on the ground floor, and then you're going to have another sample on the ground floor in another location of 10 Main Street, but still both samples will be in the basement. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great.
Bottom floor. You can call it ground floor, but it's the
Ground floor,
The
yeah.
lowest floor.
lowest floor with at least one in the back, in the rear.
And it sounds like you're going to have 2 rounds, so not necessarily the same location for both rounds, or could you just clarify what you're?
You know, the intent 10 Main, absolutely 2 rounds. Now,
Okay.
you know, just we're having at least 10. The plan is at least 10 indoor air sampling locations, you know, upstairs on top of the garage. I'm not sure we really need to resample every location, you know, but at least represent.
Oh, certainly not for the residential.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, there's no exposure pathway. It was just for reassurance to the
Absolutely.
people who are
Absolutely.
renting there.
Yeah. But at 10 Main, 2 rounds at every location. That's
Okay. All right. And I mean, I'm not that concerned about the storage room, but would you consider a second round there? Or
I think
what do you
that's
think about that?
reasonable. I think a second round on the ground floor.
Yeah.
You know, basement, if you want to call it the basement, ground floor totally makes sense.
Okay,
Yeah.
for that storage utility, whatever that's called now,
Yeah,
storage loading rooms.
It's utility storage maintenance is really, it should be
Okay,
labeled. It should,
okay. All righty. Okay, so yeah, so the ones for the, Lisa, if she, I don't think you feel differently, but the ones for the residential that is above the open air garage, not concerned about an open air, I mean, an exposure pathway. So that's just for the reassurance of people that might want to come and, you know, rent, live there. Okay, then you mentioned something about, in one of your emails, that you will have hay bales around the catch basin. So in the section on runoff 3.5.4, maybe you could just mention that.
absolutely. The catch basins will be protected with hay bales, booms. Absolutely. We don't want any sediment or effluent to get in there. We definitely protect those.
Okay. And for security, thank you for putting in that those sentences about the EPA wells and saying prior. So in another section, it's still kind of residual language from before. I think it says during, but just to, it will be protected prior to the start of, okay.
Absolutely. Those 3 wells will be protected.
Prior to start of construction.
Prior and during.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. I guess that's it. And then for me, Lisa might have other things she wants to say.
No, I mean, I know that there's one, there is that the well that's directly in front of the building is, like a stick up well right now, which,
Yep.
Might not be the most visually appealing or, I can certainly talk to our existing contractor to see if there's any way they could turn that into potentially down the road, just into like a flush mount well if,
A flush mount would be certainly easier to protect, but
yeah.
The intent is to save all 3 of the wells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Lisa's also talking about aesthetics too, right?
Yeah, aesthetics as well. Like
Yeah.
if it's not the most ideal thing to have a stick up well right in front of a building, I was going to inquire with our contractor about that. If we have drillers on site that have the appropriate equipment, is there a possibility of changing that well from a stick up to a flush mount? Just I wanted to look into that as well, just as an option.
It probably wouldn't be too difficult to do that.
Yeah, have you seen them do it? I personally haven't seen wells being transformed like that, but I assume it probably can be done. Just it's cutting down the PVC and the in the casing and that sort of thing.
Yeah, install a new manhole and put down the surface casing.
Okay, so George, should I just, you have my draft comments. You want to revise it again and include the figures or?
Yeah, I thank you for your comments. Those will all be incorporated. The figures, as I said, aren't completely prepared yet.
Yep.
But yeah, that's, that all those will be included.
When is the next one due? December? Or something like that?
Yes.
December.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, I forget his name now. Eric Johnson. He's in audits in Nero. He prefers, although I don't think it really matters, but he prefers to have a revised RAM as a standalone from the RAM status report. So I don't know. I'll take whatever I can get.
Yeah. And I appreciate your comments. All reasonable. They'll all be addressed.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Just wanted to.
And you'll certainly get that, well before construction, and, certainly look forward to, seeing you on site for all those activities. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yourself and EPA.
Yeah. George and I used to work together. Am I allowed to say that?
Absolutely. Yeah.
We used to work together at New Jersey DEP a long time ago. Not on the same projects. We both worked at New Jersey DEP on different projects. But.
And then the
Okay.
only other thing that I had was just, we're just kind of in the process of, wells, monitoring wells in Ashland that aren't on like the town property, that are on private property, basically. We were just getting like updated access agreements, written access agreements. So if I just send those out, I don't have, I don't think I have, Rich's email, but I could send it to either Joseph's or Richard. We just basically wanted to have, and it can be signed digitally, or it can be printed and mailed back, or whatever.
Is this
scanned in,
just to
sent back.
access EPA wells, those EPA wells? Is that it?
Yeah, we just like to have just current access agreements for private property, where we have monitoring wells. So if you guys just want to let me know who the best person I can email that to someone, and I could email it to George or.
Lisa, I'm happy to put an email together just to connect everybody, and I can obviously point out Rich's email. So.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
So we typically just like to have those on file. Yeah.
Well, I do have another kind of side question. There's a few other wells that Lisa didn't even know whose wells they were, closer to 10 Main Street. Are those, I don't think Lisa and I care, but are those going to be like properly decommissioned, and the logs sent into DEP, or what's the plans for those?
I know there's one other well, I believe it was part of the previous historical investigation. I know of at least one other well on the site. I'm not sure about the other ones. So I have to.
Did you see the figure that I sent?
Yeah, and I really, a lot of times, like during business hours, there's so many cars.
Oh no, it's out front. We saw two. Actually, let me just look at it real quick. We saw the far left corner of 10 Main Street by the fence is one. It was an unidentified well. And then right in front of that is a parking space, or in between a few parking spaces. And in between the cars, it was right there. We saw it was uncapped. That's another well.
Yeah, that one I know for sure is not an EPA well to my knowledge. The one that's sitting in the parking lot that had the cap ripped off, it probably got ripped off by a plow or something. Yeah, but a lot of times you can't see it, like I said, if a car is parked over it. Because that one sitting in the parking lot looks like it would probably is compromised and should probably be decommissioned. Yeah.
Is that something that you would consider? I guess I'm speaking to the owner. Is that something you would consider doing, properly decommissioning it, or I don't know, maybe talking to George?
Of course, yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem. Okay.
And then I think there's actually you're supposed to submit some sort of certification or logs. If you don't know, the driller should probably know that, but to DEP just to certify it's been decommissioned. Okay. Oh, and then the last thing is when we sent our comments end of October, at the very end, there's these other plans not in the RAM, like the civil drawings, the demolition plan, and other such things. And so Lisa was looking for the EPA wells to show up on those as well, just so that everybody knows that they exist and should be protected. Is that a possibility?
Yes, we're going to have those drawings marked up to show those.
Great. Okay. All right.
I just want to make note real quick, and thank you, and I don't want to prolong everything, but the RAM plan, and I know the planning board has had some interest into this, the land use restriction, but I just want to make sure from everybody's point of view, we're on the right path, and all material has been submitted under the RAM plan. Is that correct?
Yeah, and so like after this happens, and after it's demonstrated there isn't an indoor air issue, which there won't be with vapor barriers in the open air garage, and then an amendment would be submitted for the NOL, the notice, to allow residential use. And that was another thing, George, that you had said you wouldn't mind sending a draft my way before you submit it.
Absolutely, absolutely.
That'd be great. So then that's how that would. And I think one of Catherine's comments is, how long would that take? Like, I don't know how long it'll take, but it won't even happen until after construction, after the indoor air sampling.
Okay.
Might not take that long. you know, it's just George, I guess, pulling it together and I'll look at it and then it's submitted.
Okay.
or
So
recorded,
just,
I guess.
just to put it out there, that notice will be amended after after approval, after construction, as the indoor air quality is submitted.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. It
Awesome.
has to be demonstrated that, yeah, and I'm sure it will be.
Okay.
Fine.
That's just good for my knowledge. I know, I'm sure Raj is gonna, you know, we're gonna get questions here in town hall at our main window.
Oh, yeah.
As
Oh, yeah,
residents come
definitely.
in, it's just best for us to kind of hear it from everybody that that is the
Yeah.
process.
Yeah.
In a very simplistic way is to say, okay,
Yeah.
this is the relief of that notice will be taken through this steps, these
Yeah,
safety steps.
Does that timing work out for renting out the, I assume it does. I don't think it'll take that long to do that, but just thought I'd ask.
I think
Without, for the owner, would that timing work out for
Yeah.
you? That after construction, after indoor air sampling, we do this revision of the notice?
I can't see that being an issue. Yeah, that
Okay.
seems
I wasn't
fine.
sure if you had like a schedule, you know, really tight, got to get those people in there. No time for this. I'm joking.
yeah.
I'm joking.
We still have a ways to go through all the whole planning board process. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's no schedule set yet.
Okay.
So are there going, may I ask a question? Are there going to be any partial releases on building occupancy? Are you going to do these all at once, or are you going to have one come online after another?
I would just do it as a whole, the whole parcel, right?
Yeah,
The whole property.
Okay.
It's, it would be, it, right now, it's the notice is for, the AUL is for the entire property.
The
so it would be
entire
the
site,
same.
that's-
Yeah.
that's correct. Yeah. The AUL, the revised AUL, after the response actions are conducted, including installation of the vapor barrier and the indoor air sampling, then the AUL will be prepared and it will be provided to both Mass DEP and US EPA for comment
Okay.
and
Oh, great.
review. And then once those comments are addressed, if there are any, it'll be finalized, recorded at the Registry of Deeds.
Great.
That's how it works.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Okay. So I think with that being said, I think it was great to bring everybody into the room. You know, we
Thank
all
you.
know each other. I know where there's a long way from permitting with the planning board and obviously the application team is going to be filing with conservation, and our board of health, you know, is going to be part of everything just with the historical aspects, and obviously DEP and EPA. Lisa and Jennifer, you've been great to be on site and just to be able to jump on this meeting. So I think I don't have anything else to say or any more questions to ask. Rich, I don't know if you have any other items representing the application team and or you, Joe, but I think we're good to move ahead and we can hopefully continue to work as a team.
All set on our end. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
And
thanks a
thank
lot.
you, Peter. Thank you, George, Rich. Appreciate it very much.
Yes, and I'll send out
Nice.
a email just to say who everybody is with their email addresses so we can be fair, you know, we can continue on the communication.
Great.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank
All
you,
right.
Thank you,
Jennifer,
guys.
and thank
Thanks
you,
everyone
Lisa.
for their time.
All right, have a great day, everybody. Enjoy your
Okay.
Monday.
Of course.
Okay,
Bye
bye.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.